This is Majo John Madden in Veracruz, Mexico. The Puerto Veracruz, right out here. With a comment on a piece I saw on YouTube about an hour ago from ABC News that lawmakers are pushing to have West Virginia become the 11th state in the country to fine people for smoking cigarettes in the privacy of their own cars if there's a child present. Now, West Virginia, if you do that, you will guarantee it's always going to be a Trump state, because this is exactly the kind of government overreach that America has slid into over a lot of years, like the lobster being boiled to death and not hopping out of the pot for a long time. It would not be tolerated in Mexico, where police do not anywhere near as much take it as their job to protect the rich from the poor and minorities, way more believe in serving and protecting, and have got way better things to do than to bust people for smoking in the privacy of their own cars. The notion of personal sovereignty, the sovereignty of the individual, is pretty sacred in Mexico and would never allow stuff like this. But around cigarettes, which are mostly a working class vice, the government, which is almost entirely middle class and upper middle class people, have for a long time been doing government overreach. And it adds so much fuel to the Trumpian fire. There are so many working class people in the U.S. who really feel like they've been left behind by the government, that the government is a tool for the elites on the coastal elites on the East Coast and the West Coast. And it's true. So, I'm a smoker. Yeah, I am. I am because I'm an artist, and I get overextended. Cigarettes help me to ground myself. When I first moved to Asheville, North Carolina in 2004, you could buy a single cigarette. But the CDC outlawed that as a way of making sure that people don't smoke. What business is that of theirs? It's not their business. It's not their business. So who buys a single cigarette? Someone who's poor, who can't afford a pack of cigarettes, which is me at the end of the month when my Social Security check runs out. 6 pesos in Mexico. Some cities it's 10 pesos, less than a penny. But not allowed. You cannot do it in the U.S. No. One of the key U.S. strategies for trying to stamp out smoking is to tax the hell out of cigarettes, way more than any other product. It's the most regressive tax in the U.S. Middle class, what that did for middle class and upper class people is they quit or reduced, because they can go to a stress management therapist or buy a massage, do all their nice middle class things to manage stress. Poor people just keep smoking and use up a much bigger part of their budget on cigarettes because of that. Not true in Mexico. Cigarettes are taxed the way as any other grocery, and as a result, they're cheap in Mexico. In the U.S., all that does is guarantee that poor people will smoke really shitty cigarettes and get poorer. If the government was smart, it would, in the same way that it provides methadone for heroin users, provide additive-free cigarettes. American Spirits, the primary brand like that in the U.S., are super expensive, but native cigarettes made on an Indian reservation somewhere in New York are half that price. Provide those for people. You're just making sure that the downtrodden working class people who already feel like the government is against them will always feel that way. If the left was smart, they'd reach across the aisle and say what I'm seeing. You're right. Government in the U.S. has done overreach. My son, a self-identified black man, as a teenager, was pulled over because he had a tail light that was out. Cops are not going to pull you over in Mexico because you have a tail light out. They've got better things to do. But in the U.S., it's the kind of law that routinely gets used to profile black and minority drivers. And he did have marijuana in the car, and they found it, and it almost ruined his life at the height of the war on drugs. Yeah, could have ruined his life. How many people can ride a motorcycle? The law is the same in Mexico. There's got to be toe pegs and a seat for every rider. Never enforced. Maybe in some big cities in Mexico, but in any kind of rural area, family of 4 on a motorcycle is routine. Let them decide if that's too big a risk. Most of them are such skilled drivers and skilled riders, they don't even hold on half the time because they've gotten so skilled. Not the government's business. If the left was serious about wanting to reduce the polarization in America, you'd say, you've got a point there. Big government has been coming for you, has been messing with your personal life too much, and we need to roll that back. Say that to people, and it will give Trump less fire, less chance to get those people with him. Get smarter, okay, on the left, and more realizing that government should not be making these decisions for individual people. The Mexican government a couple of years ago tried to put through a law against smoking in restaurants, and the Restaurant Association went totally berserk, and it was pulled within a few months. They leave it up to the proprietor, which means that most nice restaurants don't allow smoking, may not allow smoking even on the veranda, but they get to choose according to what their population wants. That's more respectful. Okay, I'm ranted out on that one for now. Okay.